My name is Lila Thompson, 29 years old. I thought I had the best friend in the world until the night I scratched a ticket at her kitchen table. $5 million. We screamed, hugged, danced around the room. Then I left the ticket in my purse while I used the bathroom. When I came back, it was gone. She smiled innocently, offered me a glass of wine. 2 days later, the news showed her holding a giant check. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe to join me for more stories about family secrets and sweet, patient revenge. I met Emily Parker when we were just 6 years old, sitting side by side in the first grade. She had these wild curls, big round glasses, and a laugh that filled the whole classroom. The teacher put us together for a reading project, and from that day on, we were inseparable. You know those friendships where you don't even need to speak? Just a look, a grin, and you both know exactly what the other is thinking? That was us. Through elementary school, through high school, we were like sisters. We wore matching Halloween costumes, held each other's hands through our first heartbreaks, and swore we'd stand by each other no matter what. When my parents divorced, Emily was the one who sat with me, tissues in hand, while I cried into her shoulder. When her dog died, I was the one who biked across town in the middle of the night to comfort her. Everyone knew us as Lila and Emily. It was like one name. If you invited one of us, you automatically invited the other. But if I look back carefully now, there were little cracks, tiny, almost invisible, the kind you don't notice until the whole wall comes crashing down. Like the time in high school when I got cast in the lead role of the school play. Emily smiled and hugged me, but later I overheard her telling another girl she only got it because the teacher likes her. It stung, but I brushed it off. That was Emily, fiery, competitive. I told myself it didn't mean anything. Or the time she borrowed my favorite sweater and wore it to a party without asking. When I confronted her, she just laughed and said, "Relax, Lila, we share everything." Yes, we shared everything. Clothes, secrets, dreams, and eventually that would include something much bigger. A lottery ticket worth millions. After high school, life took us in slightly different directions, but we stayed close. I went to college nearby and worked a string of miserable part-time jobs. Emily skipped college, bouncing between retail gigs and waitressing. We both struggled, and that struggle bonded us. Nights of ramen noodles and cheap wine, venting about bills, fantasizing about a life where money wasn't always the shadow looming over us. Emily had this way of turning everything into a competition. If I got a promotion at work, she'd suddenly start talking about how she was applying to better jobs. If I bought a new outfit, she'd find one that was just a little flashier. I noticed it, yes, but it never crossed the line into true malice. Or, at least, I didn't think it did. She was my best friend, my person. And you don't doubt your person, right? There was one night, just a few months before everything unraveled, when we sat on her balcony, legs dangling over the edge, sipping cheap Chardonnay. We talked about the lottery, not seriously, just a what-if conversation. What if we won? What would we do with the money? I laughed and said I'd pay off my student loans and maybe buy a little house with a garden. Emily smirked, swirling her wine glass. I'd disappear. No one would ever see me again. Money like that, you can't trust people with it, even friends. At the time, I thought she was joking. We laughed it off like two dreamers fantasizing about impossible things. But looking back now, it feels like foreshadowing. Like she was giving me a glimpse of the truth she carried inside her all along. Because the night I scratched that $5 million ticket at her kitchen table, I believed with all my heart that I was celebrating with someone who loved me. Someone who would scream with joy not just for the money, but because my life was about to change forever. I didn't know yet that Emily had already decided how her life was about to change.
The night it happened didn't feel extraordinary at first. It was one of those chilly Friday evenings where the week had chewed you up and spit you out, and all you wanted was a glass of wine and a familiar face. That face, for me, was Emily's. We had our ritual, a bottle of wine, greasy takeout, and hours of talking about everything and nothing. But that night, as I stopped for gas on the way to our apartment, something pulled me toward the counter. There they were, the scratch-off tickets. I can't explain it. I'd bought them before, sure. $1 here, $5 there, little bursts of hope that never went anywhere. That night, I felt compelled, like fate had tapped me on the shoulder. So I bought 3. The clerk barely looked up, handing me the thin cardboard dreams as if he weren't holding something that could change a life. I stuffed them in my bag, filled my tank, and drove to Emily's. She buzzed me in, and the warmth of her apartment wrapped around me the way only an old friend's space can. The smell of takeout already filled the kitchen, and she had 2 glasses waiting. We laughed, gossiped, talked about work. For a moment, everything felt simple. I almost forgot about the tickets until I reached for my purse to grab my phone and felt them crinkle beneath my fingers. "Look what I grabbed on the way here," I said, pulling them out. Emily rolled her eyes with a grin. "Still wasting money on those things? You never win." "Maybe tonight," I teased. "You'll see." I sat at her kitchen table while she poured the wine. The first ticket, nothing. A free ticket, maybe. The second, a lousy $5. We laughed about it. But then I started on the third one. With each number I scratched, my breath caught in my throat. 1 match, 2 matches, 3. My heart pounded, louder and louder until I could barely hear Emily's voice over the ringing in my ears. When the final symbol revealed itself, I froze. $5 million. "Emily? Oh my God. Oh my God, Emily, look." She leaned over, eyes widening. Her hands flew to her mouth. Then she screamed, a piercing, joyful scream, and suddenly we were both on our feet, shrieking, hugging, spinning around the kitchen like maniacs. I don't even remember what I said, just flashes of laughter and tears, both of us jumping up and down like little kids. I clutched that ticket like it was oxygen. The edges crumpled in my sweaty palm. Emily grabbed my hands, shaking me, shouting, "You did it! You actually did it!" We collapsed into chairs, breathless, the ticket still between my fingers. I couldn't stop staring at it, half afraid it would vanish if I blinked. We talked about everything we'd do. Pay off debts, quit jobs, travel. For a few precious minutes, it felt like the world had cracked open, pouring out light just for me. I slipped the ticket into my purse, tucking it deep into the side pocket as if that would keep it safe. My chest still tight, my hands trembling, I excused myself to the bathroom. I remember looking in the mirror, trying to process it all. $5 million. My life is about to change. I smiled so wide, my cheeks hurt. I felt like the luckiest woman alive. But when I stepped back into the kitchen, something felt off. Emily was sitting at the table, sipping her wine. Too calm. My purse sat on the counter, slightly open. I glanced inside. The ticket wasn't there. My throat tightened, my palms went cold. "Hey," I said, forcing a laugh, "did you move my bag?" Emily looked up, her smile sugary sweet. "Nope, you probably dropped it somewhere. Don't worry, you'll find it." Her voice was too smooth, too practiced. I told myself I was being paranoid, that she was still the same girl who once held me when I cried over my parents' divorce. My best friend wouldn't betray me. So I sat down. I took the glass she offered me, and I told myself everything was fine. But deep down, a whisper had already begun. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. When I first realized the ticket wasn't in my purse, it was like the air got sucked out of the room. My stomach dropped, my hands went clammy, and for a moment I thought maybe I was imagining things. Maybe the wine had gone to my head. Maybe I was too excited, too nervous, too distracted. But I knew where I had put it. I remembered sliding it deep into the pocket of my dag, patting it once, almost like a good luck charm. It wasn't the kind of detail you forget. "Emily," I said again, trying to sound casual, "are you sure you didn't touch my bag? The ticket isn't here." She raised her eyebrows, looking me dead in the eyes. "Lila, why would I touch your purse? You must have dropped it. Check the floor." Her tone was light, but something about it made my skin prickle. It was too dismissive, too easy. I searched. I checked under the table, under the chairs, even retraced my steps back to the bathroom. Nothing. The ticket was gone. When I came back into the kitchen, Emily was still sitting there, sipping her wine like nothing had happened. She even offered me a smirk. "You probably scratched it wrong. Maybe it wasn't a winner after all." That stung. I felt heat rising in my chest.
a mix of panic and anger. I know what I saw, Emily. It was $5 million. Her eyes narrowed just for a split second before she plastered on another smile. Then it'll turn up. Relax. Don't freak out. Relax? How could I relax when $5 million had just vanished into thin air? I wanted to accuse her right then and there, to stand up, slam my hands on the table, and demand she give me back what was mine. But the words caught in my throat. This was Emily, my best friend since childhood, the girl who had shared her secrets, her fears, her dreams with me, the girl who swore we'd be together through everything. My rational brain screamed that she couldn't do this to me, that I must be mistaken, that I had somehow misplaced it. But a darker part of me, a whisper deep in my gut, told me I wasn't wrong. Still, I pushed the thought away. I needed to believe in her. I needed to believe that the girl I loved like a sister wasn't capable of stabbing me in the back for money. So, I laughed nervously, poured myself another glass of wine, and forced myself to keep talking like everything was normal. I told myself that tomorrow, when I emptied my bag and checked again, the ticket would be there, that it had somehow slipped into a corner or gotten stuck between receipts. But when I left her apartment that night, my purse felt lighter, not just physically, but emotionally, like something precious had been stolen, not just the ticket, but my trust. I barely slept. I dumped my purse out on the floor, shaking it until every coin, every crumpled receipt, every gum wrapper scattered across the carpet. Nothing. No ticket. The next morning, I retraced my steps to the gas station. I asked the cashier if he'd seen anything. He gave me a puzzled look and shook his head. By the second day, doubt had started to creep in. Had I made a mistake? Had I really misread the numbers in my excitement? Was it possible that I imagined the whole thing? I wanted to call Emily to ask her if she'd found it, but every time I picked up the phone, something stopped me. Her face flashed in my mind, that calm smile, that fake reassurance, and I felt sick. Then, 2 days later, I turned on the TV. And there she was, Emily Parker, my best friend, standing in front of cameras, holding an oversized check with a number I knew by heart, $5 million. She was grinning ear to ear, reporters shoving microphones at her. She looked radiant, glowing like the world's luckiest woman. But as I stared at the screen, I felt my heart shatter into 1,000 sharp pieces. Because that check, that money, that life, it should have been mine. And the worst part? Emily didn't even flinch. Not a single glance toward the camera that might betray guilt. Not a shred of hesitation in her voice when she said, "I can't believe I won. I'm so blessed." In that moment, the truth was undeniable. She had stolen from me. My best friend, my sister in all but blood, had taken everything, and I had no idea how to get it back. The moment I saw Emily on that TV screen, smiling like she'd just been handed the world, I froze. My breath caught in my chest. My wine glass slipped from my hand and shattered against the floor, red liquid spreading like blood across the tiles. There she was, in her best dress, hair done, makeup flawless, the picture of a lucky, happy winner. Emily Parker, my Emily, holding a giant check for $5 million. It was surreal, like watching a stranger wear my skin. Those were supposed to be my tears of joy, my trembling hands clutching the prize. Instead, I was sitting on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by shards of glass, staring at the betrayal of a lifetime. She spoke into the microphones, her voice steady, her smile bright. "I never thought I'd be this lucky," she said. "It still feels like a dream." A dream. My dream. I wanted to scream at the TV, to claw at the screen until her face disappeared. But I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. All I could do was sit there, frozen in disbelief, my body numb and my heart breaking. For
hours afterward, I kept replaying that night at her apartment. The way my purse had been slightly open, the way she smiled just a little too calmly when I couldn't find the ticket, the way she offered me wine, distracting me, while she tucked my future into her pocket. I thought back to that night on her balcony when she said, "Money like that, you can't trust people with it, even friends." It wasn't a joke. It was a warning, and I hadn't listened. The betrayal cut so deep, it didn't feel real. I wanted to tell myself I was mistaken, that it was all a coincidence. But how could it be? How could she just happen to find the same winning ticket I had scratched in her kitchen? I picked up my phone and dialed her number. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. I texted her, "Emily, we need to talk. Call me." No response. The next day, I tried again. This time, my messages didn't even go through. She had blocked me. That hurt more than the theft itself. Not only had she taken my money, she had cut me out of her life completely, like I was the problem, like I was disposable. In the days that followed, my apartment became a prison. I couldn't stop checking the news, scrolling through articles, watching video clips of her holding that check. Every headline praised her luck. Every photo showed her glowing. Local woman wins $5 million jackpot. She plans to travel, invest, and give back. Give back? That was rich. Emily didn't give back. She took. On social media, it was even worse. Photos of her shopping, smiling, holding bags from expensive stores, pictures of champagne glasses clinking in fancy restaurants, captions about new beginnings and dreams coming true. And there I was, sitting in the same tiny apartment, eating instant noodles, staring at overdue bills, watching the person I trusted most live my life paid for with my ticket. The betrayal festered inside me, turning into something darker: anger, resentment, hatred. It kept me awake at night, pacing my apartment, replaying every conversation we had ever had. How had I not seen it sooner? How had I not noticed the envy in her eyes every time I achieved something, no matter how small? I cried until there were no tears left. I screamed into pillows. I sat on the floor of my shower, letting the water pound down on me, wishing it could wash away the ache in my chest. But no matter how much I cried, no matter how much I begged the universe to undo it, the fact remained: Emily had stolen $5 million from me, and the world believed it was hers. At first, I thought maybe I could expose her, tell people what really happened. But every time I tried to imagine it, I saw the doubt in their eyes. Who would believe me? There was no proof. Just my word against hers, and with her smiling on TV, her pockets full of cash, who would side with me? I was powerless, voiceless, erased. But deep down, a fire was starting to burn. A quiet, steady flame that whispered, "She may have stolen it, but this isn't over, not by a long shot." And as I watched Emily bask in her stolen glory, I made myself a promise. One day, I would make her pay.
The days after Emily's win blurred together, each one heavier than the last. At first, I kept thinking someone would notice, that maybe a clerk at the lottery office would realize the ticket wasn't hers, or that she'd slip up in an interview, or that the universe itself would somehow correct the mistake. But the world didn't care. The world believed her. And me, I was unraveling. I couldn't focus at work. I'd stare at my computer screen while numbers swam across it, my mind replaying the same moments over and over. My hands scratching the ticket, the scream we shared, her calm smile when I couldn't find it. My chest tightened every time. At night, sleep abandoned me. I'd toss and turn, haunted by dreams of Emily waving that giant check while I stood empty-handed. Sometimes I'd wake up drenched in sweat, convinced I heard her laugh echoing in my apartment. I started avoiding people. My coworkers noticed. "Are you okay, Lila? You look pale." My mother called, her voice filled with concern. "Honey, you sound off. Is something wrong?" I wanted to tell them, to scream, "Yes, something is wrong," My best friend stole $5 million from me. But every time I imagined saying the words out loud, I heard how crazy they sounded, how impossible. Who would believe me without proof, without the ticket, without even a photo? I told my mom once, late at night when the weight of it was too much to carry alone. Her response still stings. Sweetheart, are you sure? Maybe you misread it. Maybe you wanted it so badly that you convinced yourself it was real? Her doubt cut deeper than any knife. Because if even my own mother didn't believe me, how could I expect anyone else to? Meanwhile, Emily was everywhere. Every time I opened social media, there she was. Smiling in a brand new designer dress, drinking champagne on a rooftop with strangers who now called themselves her friends. Boarding a plane with captions like, "First class, baby, dreams do come true." I couldn't look away. It was like watching a car crash, horrific but impossible not to stare at. The more she flaunted, the more hollow I felt. The jealousy gnawed at me, the betrayal consumed me. I stopped eating properly, surviving on coffee and the occasional slice of toast. My clothes hung looser, my skin dulled. I was a ghost, haunting my own life while Emily sparkled in hers. The paranoia grew too. I started to question everything. Every memory, every word she'd ever said to me. Had she planned this? From the moment we bought those tickets, had she already decided she'd take it if it won? The thought twisted in my chest until I could barely breathe. Some nights I'd scroll through her photos, zooming in on her smile, searching for cracks. Was she happy? Was she guilty? Did she think of me at all? One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I messaged her from a fake account. Just one word: thief. She didn't respond, but she deleted the photo I had commented on. That small action, the fact that she had seen it, acknowledged it, and chosen silence, nearly broke me. I started to feel like I was losing my mind. Like maybe everyone was right. Maybe I had imagined it. Maybe my grief and exhaustion were twisting reality. Maybe Emily truly was just lucky, and I was bitter. But then, in the quietest hours of the night, when the doubts pressed hardest against me, another voice would rise up inside me. A voice that said, "No, you're not crazy. You know what you saw. You know what she did." That whisper became my lifeline. It kept me from slipping completely into despair. Still, I felt trapped, powerless, like I was screaming in a locked room and no one could hear me. Until one night, while cleaning out the backseat of my car, I stumbled on something I'd forgotten about. A crumpled gas station bag buried under receipts and fast food wrappers. Inside, faint and smeared with grease, was a little slip of paper. The receipt. My hands shook as I smoothed it out. The date, the time, the store number, proof that I had bought those tickets. It wasn't the winning ticket itself, but it was a thread, a starting point. And for the first time in weeks, hope flickered inside me. Because maybe, just maybe, I wasn't powerless after all.
It was a Saturday evening when I found it. I hadn't meant to clean out my car. Honestly, my car was more like a moving trash can than a vehicle at that point. Fast food wrappers, half-empty water bottles, junk mail, receipts piled on the floorboards. I usually ignored it, but something inside me told me to dig that night. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was instinct. I was crouched in the back seat, pulling out old coffee cups and sticky straws when my fingers brushed against a crumpled paper bag wedged under the passenger seat. I tugged it free, expecting nothing more than more trash. But when I peeked inside, my breath caught. It was a receipt. Not just any receipt, the receipt. The one from the gas station the night I bought those 3 tickets. The paper was wrinkled, smudged with grease, but the details were still clear. The store name, the date, the exact timestamp. My eyes zeroed in on the line item, 3 scratch-off tickets. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. My hands shook as I held it closer, reading it over and over again like I was afraid it would vanish if I blinked. This was proof. Proof that I had been there. Proof that those tickets were mine. Tears stung my eyes, but this time they weren't just from grief. They were from something stronger. Hope.
For weeks, I had felt like I was drowning, my voice silenced, my truth erased. But now I had something real, something tangible. I pressed the receipt flat on my kitchen counter, smoothing out every crease. I snapped photos of it on my phone, zooming in until the numbers filled my screen. I printed copies, tucked the original into an envelope, and sealed it like it was a sacred relic. For the first time in weeks, I slept. Not well, but enough to feel like maybe I could fight again. The next morning, I drove to the lottery office. My legs trembled as I walked inside, clutching the envelope to my chest. The waiting room smelled like coffee and stale air. A bored receptionist looked up at me. "Can I help you?" she asked. My voice cracked, but I forced the words out. "Yes, I need to report a stolen winning ticket." Her eyebrows lifted slightly. "Do you have any proof?" I slid the envelope across the counter. She pulled out the receipt, her eyes scanning it. For the first time, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't crazy. She called someone from the back. A man in a suit came out, introduced himself as an investigator for the Lottery Commission. He invited me into a small office, offered me water, and asked me to tell him everything. And I did. I poured out the whole story, from scratching the ticket in Emily's kitchen, to leaving it in my purse, to realizing it was gone, to seeing her face on the news. My voice shook, my palms sweated, but I told it all. He listened quietly, nodding, occasionally jotting notes. When I was done, I pushed the receipt across the desk. "This proves I bought those tickets," I said, my voice firmer now. "You can check the serial numbers. You can trace it back. That money isn't hers. It's mine." He studied me for a long moment before speaking. "We'll look into it. These cases take time. But if what you're saying is true, this receipt could be very important." Could be. Those words both lifted me and crushed me. When I left the office, the weight on my chest was lighter, but not gone. I had planted the seed, but seeds take time to grow. And time was something Emily was wasting no second of. That night, I checked her social media again. Photos of her in Paris this time. Eiffel Tower sparkling behind her. Caption: "Living the dream, grateful every day." My blood boiled. Grateful? She wasn't grateful. She was a thief. But now, I wasn't powerless anymore. I had evidence. I had taken the first step. And as I stared at her smug smile on my phone screen, I whispered to myself, "This isn't over, Emily. You might be living your dream right now, but soon, you'll be living your nightmare."
The days after handing over that receipt stretched on like years. I thought I would feel immediate relief after speaking to the investigator, but instead, I found myself trapped in a different kind of torment. Waiting for a phone call, waiting for justice, waiting for someone, anyone, to finally acknowledge that Emily Parker wasn't a lucky winner, but a thief. I checked my phone obsessively. Every buzz, every ding sent my heart racing. But most of the time, it was nothing more than junk mail or my mom reminding me to let it go and move on. Let it go? Move on? How could I? $5 million had been ripped from my hands, and the person who stole it was posting selfies under the Eiffel Tower. The investigator had told me these cases took time. "We'll need to verify purchase records, examine the serial numbers, and review surveillance footage," he'd explained. His voice had been calm, methodical, the way people sound when they've said the same thing 100 times before. I clung to those words like a lifeline, even as each day stretched thinner, my patience fraying. Meanwhile, Emily was everywhere. I couldn't escape her. First Paris, then Rome, then a string of beach photos in Santorini, the kind with white stone houses and blue domes, her posing like she was the cover of a travel magazine. The captions were smug, almost taunting. "Hard work pays off. Never stop believing in miracles." Hard work? Miracles? No, it wasn't either of those. It was my money, my miracle. The comments below her posts were worse. Friends and strangers alike fawned over her. "So proud of you, Emily. You deserve this more than anyone. Goals!" Each heart emoji felt like a knife. I wanted to scream at them all. "She doesn't deserve this. She stole it." But what proof did I have? A crumpled receipt? My word against hers? Until the Lottery Commission finished their investigation, I was still invisible. The pressure began eating at me.
At night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying her betrayal again and again. The way she had smiled as she handed me that glass of wine, the way she had blocked me, cut me off, erased me from her world as if I'd never existed. The investigator called once, about 2 weeks in. His voice was clipped, professional. "Miss Thompson, we've located the records of the purchase at the gas station. The serial number matches the winning ticket. We're cross-referencing now." I nearly dropped the phone. The serial number! It was like hearing the first crack in a wall that had seemed unbreakable. So you believe me?" I whispered. He paused. "We can't confirm anything yet, but the evidence you provided is consistent. We'll be in touch." Consistent. It wasn't the validation I craved, but it was enough to keep me breathing. Still, the waiting gnawed at me. Every photo Emily posted felt like a slap in the face. Every lavish trip another reminder of what she'd stolen. She wasn't hiding her wealth. She was flaunting it, daring the world to envy her. I started saving her posts, screenshotting everything. I imagined a courtroom one day, her fake smile plastered on a projector while I explained how she had paraded around the world on money that wasn't hers. But late at night, when the anger cooled, doubt still crept in. What if the investigation went nowhere? What if they decided it was too late, that the check had already been issued, that the money couldn't be recovered? What if Emily actually got away with it? The thought nearly broke me. One night, I sat in the dark, scrolling through her posts, my stomach twisting into knots. And then I stopped, staring at one image. Emily on a yacht, glass of champagne in hand, the ocean sparkling behind her. She looked untouchable. Untouchable, but not invincible. I whispered to myself, the words tasting like steel. "Enjoy it while you can, Emily. Because when they call me back, it's over. For you." It happened on a Tuesday afternoon, the kind of day that felt like all the others, gray, heavy, and endless. I was at work, pretending to type up a report while my mind wandered, as it always did, back to Emily. Then my phone buzzed. At first, I didn't even check it. I assumed it was another useless email or my mom reminding me to drink water, but something made me glance down. When I saw the caller ID, my heart stopped. It was the lottery commission. My hands shook as I picked up. "Hello?" My voice came out barely above a whisper. "Ms. Thompson?" The voice on the other end was steady, professional, the same investigator I'd met weeks earlier. "I wanted to update you on the matter you reported." I gripped the edge of my desk so hard my knuckles whitened. Yes, I'm here." He cleared his throat as though choosing his words carefully. "After reviewing our records, we were able to confirm that the winning ticket was purchased at the gas station you identified. The serial number on that ticket matches the series listed on your receipt." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My ears rang, my heart thundered in my chest. I had to force the words out. "So, what does that mean?" There was a pause. Then, "It means the ticket was yours, Ms. Thompson, not Emily Parker's." The words crashed over me like a tidal wave. I covered my mouth with my hand, tears instantly spilling down my cheeks. I couldn't stop shaking. Weeks of doubt, humiliation, and despair, all of it came bursting out of me in sobs I couldn't control. I had been right. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining things. Emily had stolen from me, and now, finally, someone else knew it too. "Ms. Thompson?" The investigator's voice broke through my crying. "I know this has been difficult, but I need you to understand. The process isn't over. There will be hearings, paperwork, and possibly legal proceedings. These cases are complicated." I wiped my face, forcing myself to focus. But the money, what happens to the money?" "We're working on that. It's not immediate. Funds may be frozen during the investigation. In some cases, restitution is required. What I can promise you is this. We now have documented proof that you purchased the winning ticket. That's a significant step." Significant step?
That was all I needed to hear. I thanked him through choked sobs and ended the call. Then I collapsed into my chair, my body shaking with relief and rage all at once. Relief because the truth was finally out. Rage because Emily was still out there, parading around the world with my money, posting her stolen joy for everyone to envy. I thought about calling her, about screaming into the phone, "I know what you did. They know too. It's over, Emily." But I didn't. Not yet. Because as sweet as the truth felt, I wanted the reveal to be even sweeter. I wanted her to wake up one morning and see the world crumbling around her. I wanted her perfect little fantasy to collapse brick by brick until she had nothing left. I wanted her to know exactly what it felt like to lose everything. That night, I poured myself a glass of cheap wine, sat on my couch, and stared out the window at the city lights. For the first time in weeks, my chest felt lighter. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. The investigator had confirmed the truth. The ticket was mine. But reclaiming it, reclaiming the life that had been stolen from me, that was another battle entirely. And battles take patience. So I whispered into the dark, a vow I intended to keep. Emily Parker, enjoy your stolen paradise while you can, because your time is running out. And when it ends, it won't just be justice. It'll be revenge. The first crack in Emily's perfect little empire didn't come from me. It came from the news. 2 weeks after the investigator confirmed the ticket was mine, I was scrolling through my phone on a sleepless night when a headline caught my eye. Lottery Commission opens fraud inquiry into $5 million winner. My heart leapt. I tapped the link so fast my finger hurt. There it was, in black and white, Emily's name. Emily Parker. The woman who had been plastered across social media with her designer clothes and luxury trips was now under investigation. I read the article 3 times, each word sweeter than the last. It said the Lottery Commission was reviewing claims of a disputed winning ticket, with evidence suggesting that the payout might have gone to the wrong person. They hadn't named me, not yet, but they had confirmed that another claimant had stepped forward with proof. Me. I nearly screamed with joy. But the best part? The comments section. For the first time since this nightmare began, people weren't praising Emily. They were doubting her. Wait, she seemed sketchy anyway. Didn't she quit her job the day after winning? Red flag. I knew something felt off about her story. Every comment felt like oxygen. After weeks of suffocating under her lies, the world was finally beginning to see through them. The next few days were a whirlwind. News outlets picked up the story. Some called it a lottery scandal, others a friendship betrayal. Reporters started digging into Emily's past, looking for dirt. Photos of her partying in Paris and Rome resurfaced. But now, instead of envy, people were judging her. Living large on stolen cash? One headline sneered. And then the video surfaced. It was a clip from the night Emily claimed her prize. Shaky cell phone footage from someone at the lottery office. Emily stood there with the giant check, smiling like a queen, but her hands were trembling. Her eyes darted around the room, nervous, guilty. I watched it a dozen times, studying every twitch of her face. She knew. She had known all along that she was a thief. When the clip hit the internet, the tide fully turned. Her Instagram, once filled with heart emojis and praise, became a war zone. Fraud. Hope you enjoy prison thief. Give the money back to the real winner. Emily stopped posting after that. Her silence was louder than anything she could have said. For me, it was vindication. Sweet, delicious vindication. I had spent weeks screaming into a void, begging someone to believe me. Now the world did. But here's the thing about revenge. It doesn't always taste the way you expect it to. Yes, I felt satisfaction seeing Emily crumble, but I also felt something darker, a gnawing emptiness. Because while she was falling, I was still waiting. The money wasn't in my account. My life hadn't magically changed back. I was still the same woman in the same tiny apartment, eating cold leftovers and hoping the commission moved faster. Still, I savored the small victories. One morning, a mutual friend texted me, someone I hadn't heard from in months. "Lila, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I should have believed you." I stared at the message for a long time before replying, "Now you know."
The apology didn't erase the pain, but it reminded me that Emily's mask was gone. Everyone could finally see the monster underneath. And Emily, she couldn't hide. Reporters camped outside her house, her neighbors whispered. The same people who once envied her now treated her like poison. I imagined her pacing inside, blinds drawn, terrified to leave. The yacht trips, the designer dresses, the champagne, all useless now, all tainted. She had stolen my dream, but in the end, she couldn't keep it, because you can't build happiness on a foundation of lies. And soon, very soon, she was going to lose everything.
The call came on a Thursday morning. I was making coffee, still half asleep, when my phone buzzed. The investigator's voice was calm as ever, but the words he spoke jolted me awake instantly. "Ms. Thompson, the commission has concluded its review. We're moving forward with legal proceedings against Emily Parker. You'll be required to testify." For a moment, the room spun. Testify. The word felt heavy, final, like the closing of a door I'd been staring at for months. "Does this mean it's over?" I asked, my voice barely steady. He paused. "It means we're close. The courts will decide the final restitution, but with the evidence you've provided, your chances are strong." Strong. That was enough. The days that followed felt unreal. I was no longer invisible. I was no longer the crazy friend shouting into the void. I was the claimant, the rightful winner. And Emily? She was the defendant. The first time I saw her in court, my heart nearly stopped. She walked in wearing a beige suit that was meant to look professional, but her eyes betrayed her. Gone was the confident woman flashing smiles in Paris. She looked smaller somehow, her shoulders hunched, her face pale. But when her gaze met mine across the room, I saw it, the flicker of recognition, of panic. And then quickly she masked it with a smirk. That smirk made my blood boil. The proceedings dragged on, as these things always do. Lawyers argued, documents were passed around, questions were asked and answered. I sat there, gripping the edges of my chair, waiting for my turn. When it finally came, I stood, my legs trembling, but my voice clear. I told the story from the beginning, how I had bought the tickets, how I scratched one at her kitchen table, how we screamed, hugged, danced, how I left it in my purse, and how it disappeared. Every detail came spilling out, my voice cracking only once when I said, "She wasn't just my friend, she was my best friend, and she betrayed me in the worst way possible." The room was silent. The judge nodded. Emily shifted in her chair, avoiding my eyes. Then her lawyer tried to poke holes. "Isn't it possible you misremembered? Isn't it possible you're confused?" But that's when the investigator stepped forward. He laid out the receipt, the timestamp, the serial numbers, the proof that tied everything back to me. It was undeniable. I looked at Emily then, really looked at her. Her face was tight, her jaw clenched, her hands twisting in her lap. For the first time, she didn't look smug. She looked trapped. And in that moment, I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about justice, about reclaiming the piece of myself she had tried to erase. When the judge finally spoke, the words were like thunder in the room. "The evidence is clear. The winning ticket was purchased by Miss Thompson. Miss Parker, you are hereby ordered to return the full amount of the prize plus damages." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. My knees nearly gave out. $5 million, my $5 million, was coming back to me. Emily's face crumpled. The smirk was gone. All that was left was fear. I thought I'd feel triumphant. I thought I'd want to scream with joy. But instead, I felt calm. Steady, like I had been carrying a boulder on my back for months and it had finally rolled away. As I left the courthouse, people whispered, cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, but I ignored them all. I didn't need their validation. I had mine. Emily had taken everything from me, my trust, my joy, my sanity. But in the end, she lost. She lost the money, she lost her reputation, she lost me. And me? I walked away with more than a check. I walked away with proof that no matter how deep a betrayal cuts, sometimes, just sometimes, revenge is as patient as it is sweet. The weeks after the verdict felt like waking up from a long, terrible dream. For the first time in months, I could breathe without the weight of suspicion pressing on my chest. The headlines shifted. Justice for lottery scandal victim. Stolen winnings returned to rightful owner. And there it was. My name, no longer hidden, no longer erased. My story wasn't a whispered rumor anymore. It was fact. When the money finally hit my account, I stared at the numbers on the screen for what felt like hours. $5 million. My $5 million. The sum Emily had stolen, flaunted, wasted on yachts and champagne, was finally mine again. But here's the thing nobody tells you about revenge or justice. It doesn't erase the scars. Yes, I had the money. Yes, I had the validation. But when I closed my eyes, I could still see Emily smile that night, the way she held the wine glass in her hand as if nothing had happened. I could still feel the way my stomach dropped when I saw her on the news with that giant check. The betrayal lingered. Friends reached out, some apologizing for doubting me, others congratulating me for standing my ground. My mom cried when I told her the outcome, her voice trembling as she said, "I'm so sorry I didn't believe you right away." I forgave her, but quietly, in the back of my mind, I knew I'd never forget who stood by me and who didn't. As for Emily, her fall was brutal. Reporters camped outside her house until she moved out of state. Her social media vanished overnight. Last I heard, she was drowning in debt, not just from the court-ordered restitution, but from the lavish trips and shopping sprees she'd burned through before the hammer fell. People who once envied her now avoided her name like a curse. And the ones who had cheered her on during her stolen victory, they pretended they never knew her. In a strange way, I almost pitied her. Almost. But pity doesn't erase the truth. Emily made her choice the night she slipped that ticket from my purse. She thought she could build a life out of lies, but lies always crumble. And me? What did I do with the money? That's what everyone always asks. Did I buy a mansion? Did I quit my job? Did I fly off to Paris just to stand where Emily had once stood and reclaim it for myself? The truth is simpler. I paid off my debts. I bought a modest home, nothing flashy, just mine. I set aside savings for the future, for the family I might one day have, and yes, I traveled, but not to flaunt it. I traveled quietly, on my terms, with peace in my chest, instead of guilt gnawing at my heels. Because that's the difference between Emily and me. She wanted to prove something to the world. I just wanted to live. Looking back now, I realize revenge isn't about watching someone else burn. Not really. True revenge is surviving what they tried to take from you and building something stronger in its place. Emily thought she stole my life the night she pocketed that ticket. But in the end, all she stole was time. Time I'll never get back. Nights I'll never sleep peacefully again. And yet, here I am, still standing, still breathing, still mine. So if you're watching this and someone has betrayed you, taken from you, made you question your own sanity, listen closely. You are not powerless. You are not invisible. Sometimes justice takes time, sometimes revenge is patient, but the truth has a way of clawing its way to the surface. Before I end this story, let me ask you one more thing. If you were in my shoes, standing there with $5 million stolen from you by your best friend, would you have done the same, or would you have let it go? Drop your answer in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of betrayal, family secrets, and the sweetest revenge. Because trust me, this won't be the last.